My name is Storm King, and I'm making this short video to share about the relationship I had with Ram Dass, and share some of how he influenced me over my life. The story starts in 1964, when my mother met Richard Alpert and Timothy Leary at a seminar at Esalen Institute. And she had previously read this book, The Psychedelic Experience. This is our copy. It was co-authored by Richard Alpert. So Richard Alpert and my mother hit it off. They stayed friends for quite a while. I met Richard Alpert when I was 12 years old in 1966. He had come by to visit us. We discovered a common passion for a certain science fiction book called Stranger in a Strange Land by Robert Heinlein. And in the book, the characters had shared water and become water brothers, and that meant they were very special to each other. So Richard Alpert and I and my older sister formally shared water by sipping from the same glass and declared ourselves water brothers to each other. And over the years, in the letters that he wrote us, he often referred to us as his water brothers. And it just meant that we were real special to each other. When Ram Dass came back, when Richard Alpert came back as Ram Dass, we visited him at Esalen Institute in 1969. And this is a picture of him that my aunt took. He's talking to my mother there. It was a very special day. I remember quite a bit about that, even though I was only 14 or 15 years old at that time. I recently created a website to share the stories and the pictures and the letters, mostly from the mid-60s to the mid-70s. And it's ramdasslove.org. If you can go there, you'll see it. I'm going to share just a few more items of what I call my Ram Dass memorabilia, and then I'll talk about how he influenced my life. This is our copy of From Bindu to Ojai, the book that later became the Brown Pages in Be Here Now. He autographed it to us on page 36. He said, "What a dance, what a tribe in love, Ram Dass." This is a letter. This is one of the most special letters that he sent us. So you can see that here. It's on my website. But basically, he just says, "We are all family." So every time we go behind the veil of differences in time and space, who do we meet but ourselves, hanging out all over? That was in 1971 that he sent us this. One of the most special letters that I got from him was I wrote him much later in the 90s, and I asked him what it was like to be so famous. And he said, "Fame is all relative, and I'm really just a big fish in a little pond. I tried to milk it for significance, but it turned out to be kind of irrelevant, because it still boils down to the depths of the truth you share with beings from moment to moment, and that requires getting free of roles and identities in that moment. When I hug someone in line after a lecture, in that hug all the Ram Dass-ness disappears, and there is only hugness." I remember some of my hugs from Ram Dass. They were very special. So, my understanding of Be Here Now is, I've explained it to people quite a few times. It doesn't mean you don't make plans to go to college next fall, if that's what you're up to. It just means you do that in the context of what's going on here now, and then you let go of any attachment to what actually happens next fall. What this has done for me over the course of my life is I've developed a way of being okay with just whatever the moment is. What happens is if I find myself saying, "I'll be okay when," then I'm not doing the real here now that Ram Dass taught us, right? If I tell myself, "I'll be okay when," then I'm telling myself that I'm not okay now. And I actually am just okay now when we practice that. The next thing that I remember very distinctly of his influence on me was when we got our copy of the 6-album set Love, Serve, Remember in the early 70s. There's a track on that where he reads the third patriarch of Zen. This was a manuscript written in the 6th century. It's basically about how the nature of dualities and how to see past them. But it starts off with a line that has stuck with me ever since the 70s, which is, "The great way is not difficult for one who holds no preferences. Now, the Great Way is a euphemism for the path to enlightenment. And what that has told me, and what I've tried to remember from that since the 70s, is that it's my judgments about things. This is good, this is bad, this is right, this is wrong, that keep me from seeing the oneness behind all the dualities. The other major influence of Ram Dass' teachings on my life has been what he talked about cultivating the witness. This has been a very powerful tool for me to get some emotional distance between my stuff, what's going on, and how I feel about it. So what I do is when I start to get anxious or worried, I would hold my hand out and I would look at it and imagine my whole world in my hand. And I go, oh, isn't that interesting? Here's this storm dude, and he's got all these things going on, and he's worried about this, and he's afraid of that. Isn't that interesting? And then just like that, the sky is no longer falling, and I'm okay again for a while. What this has done for me over the course of time is that it's allowed me to see, as they say, that life is happening for me, not to me. And it's helped me get out of any kind of victim mentality, which is so important if I want to be with some inner peace and being of help and service to others. In 1973, I was 19 years old. I had a very difficult year. A lot of my thinking became divorced from reality, and I was acting crazy and being real crazy. And my mom was very worried about me. At some point, twice during that year, she called Ram Dass and asked him to check in on me psychically, and he did. And I remember one of them very, very clearly. I was hitchhiking between California, we were coming over the mountains down into Nevada, and his presence just came into my mind so powerfully. And like he was in lotus position, and I was just sitting in lotus position. Even though I was in a car going down the road, I was suddenly just kind of sitting with him. And it lasted at least a minute or so. And then when I got back and kind of came out of that, my mom told me that he had called her to tell her that I was okay, but that I was not going to be home for a while. So to summarize a little bit, I became interested in Ram Dass' work and teachings from a very, very young age, and they were very influential on me clear through my 20s. And then I kind of went off and had a life and got married twice and had a career. Now that I'm retired, in the last handful of years, I've come back to his teachings and learned more and studied more and to be more. I recently wrote a bit of a prose kind of poem for him. It's very short. It goes like this. You gave yourself to everyone. Your time, your love, your awareness. Now you live only in our hearts. So that is where we go to be with you. Ram Dass is beloved by millions of people. I feel so fortunate to have been a tiny little part of his life back in the 60s, in the 70s. There isn't a whole lot that can be put into words about the feelings of connections that his teachings have allowed me to experience. It goes way beyond what can be described. So I hope that tells you a little bit about how I became me, because he had a lot to do with it.